What unites people? Armies? Gold? Flags? Stories. There's nothing in the world more powerful than a good story.
Welcome to part 2 of Evolution of Storytelling. In last episode we discussed how it took us thousands of years to move from cave paintings to ancient scriptures to building grand monuments in telling and preserving our stories, and how quickly we threw much of it away, and how after 1500 years of religious persecution and superstitions, the light of Renaissance shone on the world once again with the invention of printing press. Printing press turned the religious, legal, and scientific knowledge a mass commodity rather than the private property of the kings and the clergy. The stories of a round earth revolving around the sun with its own field of gravity pulling the apple down, these stories found their way to the printing press and lived on to inspire the next generations of scientists and explorers. Naval explorers used this newfound knowledge to discover new sea routes, even new worlds altogether. Thanks to this new trade and commerce, locals, customs, beliefs, stories went global. But just when it was going all so well, mankind turned greedy. Colonization happened, and its first casualties were the indigenous beliefs, customs, and stories. Only a handful of them survived till date in some regions, while the entire civilizations were wiped off. Meanwhile, industrial age began an era of unprecedented prosperity in Western Europe, fueled only by the rich resources looted from the enslaved colonies. Modern fields of science, physics, chemistry, biology, economics, mathematics prospered in this era, while the modern literature was also produced on the themes of politics, philosophy, poetry and romance by extraordinary authors of 17th to 19th century. While they make 20th century look pale in comparison, 20th century had its own fair share of genius storytellers. I first binge read an Agatha Christie novel on a long, painful train journey from Hyderabad to Delhi, and since then it has become my constant companion. Despite being published only after the First World War, she is the third most read writer in history, only after Bible and Shakespeare, with over 2 billion books sold worldwide till date. She has gifted the world peculiar detectives like Hercule Poirot and Miss Marple, and of course, she has given us these mind-boggling plots. If you haven't read any of them yet, take my advice, just do it. In 1814, for the first time, a newspaper was mass printed on both sides, and over the next few decades, it became the primary supplier of our daily dose of stories. Politics, crime, business, sports and weather, obituaries and job vacancies, and cartoons and puzzles, all this variety at the fraction of a cost and at the comfort of your breakfast table. How could it not have become an inseparable part of our daily social routine? With the success of dailies, publishers soon started pushing for weekly and monthly magazines too, and over the last century or so, some of them have enjoyed some really hardcore following among the genres of cinema, automobile, tourism, stock market, real estate, fashion, technology, whatever that category is, and for nerds like me, comic books. I too have some fond memories from my childhood with Indian superheroes and magazines like Nandan, Tinkle, Balhans, and of course, Amar Chitrakatha series. And if you look globally, the celebrated storylines of all time and the fan favorite characters are at the moment reigning big billion-dollar ideas thanks to these genius storytellers. By earlier 20th century, storytelling progressed to a new auditory medium, radio. Especially during the World War II, it became the most reliable and fastest medium to get the essential news stories from many corners of the world. And even today, it carries a great deal of trust in distant rural areas and among local advertising communities. The magic of storytelling, meanwhile, was also coming alive on the silver screen. And although it was just silent comedies in the beginning, pioneers like Walt Disney and Charlie Chaplin, their storytelling was still far better than what I was made to watch and suffer last night at home. And since then, it has moved to black and white talkies, to Eastman color, to 3D movies, and the live action stage today. Entire genres were carved out, and each decade left an indelible impression. Movies have long been the reflection of the times that we live in, and sometimes it has been the change agent for the society too, thanks to some visionary filmmakers of the past. I am particularly fond of these and these. And Wes Anderson's every single movie is a journey in itself. But when it comes to movie and filmmaking, I'm sure hardly anyone is there who doesn't worship this gentleman. Simply put, Steven Spielberg has essentially done what Shakespeare did for theatre and Agatha Christie for fiction writing. He has redefined the ways we consume adventure, action, horror, history, and practically the way we see a protagonist on screen. Let me now just stop talking and let you revisit some of his finest accomplishments. While the celluloid was busy making larger-than-life movies, the idiot box was slowly invading our households. From the first ever live telecast in 1936 Berlin Olympics to watching live news debates today with Olympic level intensity, we have certainly come a long way. But do you remember the time when DD2 was a luxury, and even to watch the DD1, the entire household had to fight a battle with the antenna? When watching Ramayana or Mahabharata was nothing short of a trip to the holy temple. When morning tea and hot pakoras were Sunday rituals along with watching Chandrakanta and Rangoli. And how innocently we used to believe that if we jumped from the terrace, Shaktiman will come flying to save us. Simple time, isn't it? Today, we have more TV channels than the TV shows 2 decades back. But do we still have the same quality of the content? Now you know why we call it the idiot box. But as Dumbledore said once, happiness can be found even in the darkest of times if one simply remembers to turn on the light. Not just TV shows, but the TV commercials also evolved in their content and language with changing times. The old little ad was considered a bold one for those times. You know how it is on TV too. And since these commercials had 10 to 15 seconds at most to convey a gripping story, those who relied on emotional connect and on humor stood out from the rest and became cult classics. 90s, not just the decade of nostalgia, but also the decade of technological advancements. My family was an early adopter of computers in my hometown, and I still recall how my father fooled us for many years with "take your shoes off outside the room or the computer will catch the virus." By mid-2000s, when I joined my college and inherited my father's old compact laptop, it was just enough for all my academic requirements. Orkut, Yahoo chat rooms, EA Sports, Counter-Strike, C programming? Not really. This was also the time when platforms like Facebook, Google, YouTube, Wikipedia were busy helping millions of customers across the world in creating story content. Moving on to 2010s, people were fed up by now with the stretched, stereotypical, stale content on both TV and in cinema. And no wonder an alternative form of entertainment came as a breath of fresh air. Web series. TVF, AIB, Comedy Central, even many YouTube channels like Nas Daily and Infographic Show became instant hit. Netflix, Amazon, and many other platforms capitalized on these waves and are going pretty strong with their originals so far. It wasn't just a clock, calendar, or emails, but we migrated from laptops to mobiles for pretty much every single need. Games, news, travel, shopping, education, entertainment, whatever this is, everything became an app on the screen. And amidst this cutthroat race to user attention, the ones which communicated their stories better and in more engaging manner rose above the competition. I'm sure most of you have used or at least heard about this app. For a generation whose attention span is getting shorter by the day, asking them to read news and stay updated, it's a tedious task. InShorts provides customized updates with a headline, brief text, and a catchy image. To be honest, half the people just watch the image and read the headline. That's it. But even then, at least they are consuming some healthy news stories. Well done, InShorts. Let me now tell you the future of storytelling. VR. Yeah, virtual reality. The way it was predicted in Star Wars or Star Trek, even Ready Player One maybe. Every brand, institution, product, political party, even real people will be interacting and telling their stories through their virtual avatars rather than the 2D screens that we have right now. We will live, breathe, and experience these stories on an emotional level. And this emotional factor will be made possible because of the massive advancements in the communication technology, the data analytics, machine learning, and artificial intelligence. A post-coronavirus world is becoming and will keep becoming increasingly virtual. So I ask all of you, the client consultants, investors, entrepreneurs, marketing professionals, public speakers, artists, classroom trainers, live entertainers, do you have what it takes to create the same impression online as you could make successfully in person? If there is one thing, one skill that can definitely help you achieve it, it is storytelling. So far, we have learned the why and the when of storytelling. In the next week's episode, we'll define what is storytelling and begin its how part. If you like today's video, press the like button, share it, and tell me in the comment section. And don't forget to subscribe because we have just begun. You have to keep watching A Beginner's Guide to Storytelling.